Welcome back to War Thunder News. This week, it looks like Gaijin needs to hire a plumber because there's quite a few leaks. We'll get into those in just a second, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. First off, there was one in the COUB dev blog in the video displaying the ordnance of the helicopter. It was quite easily spotted that the helicopter that the COUB was shooting down wasn't a one that we currently have in the game. Shortly after this was discovered, Gaijin went Soviet Union on it and destroyed all information that they could get their hands on, unfortunately for them. Fortunately for us, people obviously linked it elsewhere. Now, unfortunately, the image of the helicopter being shot down wasn't that great. However, people were still able to identify it. At first, people identified it as the AH-64 Apache. However, on further investigation, now it is believed to be the AH-64 prototype Apache. This is based on the fact that it looks like it has a T-shaped tail. If this is the case, it brings some interesting ideas forward, mainly based on the fact that the COUB is going to be a premium. That would leave one to assume two different things: that the US as well will get a premium helicopter of similar power, and perhaps the COUB will be a detectory one. And expanding on that, if the prototype Apache is going to be a premium for the US, then wouldn't the regular Apache be non-premium for the US? So let's go forward with the assumption that the AH-64 is going to be a US premium. What I can assess from this is, as a helicopter, it's a pretty sturdy bird. However, it's a helicopter, so just shoot a little bit more and it'll follow the sky eventually. The really only parts that matter are the anti-tank armaments, because God, who plays helicopter modes? And among those are your typical rocket pods, or tow missiles, or you can take up to 16 Hellfire missiles. And if you don't like Hellfires for whatever reason, you can also take out, of course, tow missiles. In comparison, the COUB of its Russian ATGMs can only take 12 of them, but of course also has some rocket pods and even bombs. Now, both of the vehicles are armed with a 30mm gun under the nose. However, the COUB has something that the AH-64 does not, and that is anti-air missiles. Moreover, the Igla-1V. I'm not going to go bother to Google search all the specifications of it. All I know is that it kills aircraft good. And all I've looked of the AH-64 is it has no anti-air missiles that it can attach, which, in my personal opinion, makes this one the better deal. Also, the COUB can carry bombs. However, I think the best way to put this is, the first person to kill me with bombs in a helicopter, I'll give you 150 GE. So to close this segment, I'd have to ask, what is your take on the whole COUB and leaked AH-64? Which one do you think is better, and what one would you be more likely to buy? Personally, I lean more towards the COUB because it just generally looks cooler. However, I'm not too into the helicopter gameplay in War Thunder. I think it needs some pretty hard rework. I'm also not too into the whole 10.0 premium situation that we seem to be flowing into. I'm hoping Gaijin is planning to increase the battle rating cap. Otherwise, I'm getting a little nervous and a bit more interested in Destiny 2. The other leak that Gaijin has yet to take care of is actually a very fresh one. Was posted in the 1.93 rumor roundup forum thread, and it is the T-90A, a model of it in the CDK. Now, at first glance, you're most likely to think, well, yeah, we had a model of it back in 2017 for the, what is it, Modern Tanks April Fool's thing. So this is just probably that model. However, this one has a different skin color. It's the usual generic Russian green that Gaijin puts on all the Russian tanks. The old one from 2017 was a nice desert camo to go along with the desert map that was on. And personally, I feel that, to make a practical joke, I don't know if someone would reskin an entire tank, as you can't just slap green on it. You would have to redo the entire skin to make sure the fine details aren't compromised. And that doesn't seem to be the case here. Otherwise, the person put a lot of detail into a fake, which, well, I have seen people put some quite a lot of effort into fakes. I don't think on this scale yet. But even then, I still wouldn't blame you for not believing this, as it's still pretty sketchy, and as we know, this model has been in the game for quite some time. One thing I noticed that was actually different about this model and the old one that was shown on the dev blog back in 2017 is around the gun mantlet. On the 2017 model, it's covered with cloth, but on this new one, the gun mantlet, for whatever reason, has no cloth on it. To make sure this wasn't just an aspect of the dev blog images, which are typically a higher resolution or higher detail than in actual game ones, I think that they do that for marketing services, and because if you hit the high detail ones in the game wouldn't run as well. So I checked what it looked like in game back in 2017 by just looking up old photos. There's plenty of them because people really cite psyched about that. April Fools. And indeed, back in 2017, it did have cloth around the gun mantlet. It's very much possible that the lack of cloth on the new skin is entirely a aspect of the CDK. I don't know entirely how the CDK works, and this just could be one of the aspects of it. I think the most important piece of evidence we have is the detail put into the skin. Most fakesters won't put in the slight detail. For example, on the front of the green skinned T-90A, there are these rectangles, and one of these rectangles, the paint has faded on the sides of it. That's a very bizarre detail to add. I'll leave the final decision on whether you think this is legit or not up to you. Personally, I feel, for some odd reason, that it is legit. I think my reasoning comes around to the idea that the T-90A being added to the game isn't too shocking. Compared to everything else that's currently in the game and what is apparently planned to be in the game for China, some pretty modern stuff, it's not too surprising or out there. If anything, it's a bit reasonable. A few other ideas why I think it might be legitimate is because it would go very well with a new Russian helicopter. For helicopters, no one plays helicopter mode. They're mainly used to kill tanks in ground RB. And if you're going to be playing ground RB trying to ground a new tank, having a new helicopter would be perfect to go along with it. And it's not unreasonable that they would use a model they already have. Why would they make it again? They already have it. And it was a pretty good model back in 2017. It's a good model today. If we were to assume that this is indeed a real leak, you have to put the other nations into perspective, mainly the US. I have a feeling that if the Russians are going to get the T-90A, it's likely that the Americans could get the M1A1HA or maybe the M1A2. And as I said, with the Russian tank and Russian helicopter, if the US were to get a new modern tank, we already know they're going to get a new, more modern helicopter, so these things would go hand in hand. So I gotta ask, what's your opinion on this T-90A? Is it legit? Is it just a really well-detailed reskin? Is the US going to get something to counter it? What about other nations? Are we going to see some more Type 90s or the Type 10? I'd love to hear what you think about this down below. The last bit of information that I possess about what could come in 1.93 is a quote from the store team dude. In response to people asking him many questions in attempts to narrow down the context of 1.93, he said that he's not going to answer so many specific questions, though he ended it with, "All I can say is there will be several premiums, both store and GE ones." Now, it's a little obvious there's going to be some premiums, especially from the store. However, it's not too common that we see GE premiums, so that's a bit interesting. I wonder what those could be. If I were to give it some thought, at first I was hoping maybe there'd be some World War II era things, less valuable, so they wouldn't be sold in the store for like a few bucks. However, with the recent trend, last patch we got some GE purchasable jets for America, so perhaps for Russia and Germany we'll get some GE purchasable jets. And the last thing regarding leaks was this post from the Fan War Thunder VK blog, which many people passed around. However, all I can say is that they're discussing things. It's not leaks. In fact, the little blue box at the bottom of this says discussion, and they do even bring up the possibilities of a naval treaty coming, which we've already have been confirmed not. The VK blog, I assume, is kind of just like Russian Reddit, and as you wouldn't believe everything posted on Reddit, don't believe everything posted on the VK blog. As for things unrelated to what could be coming in 1.93, the materials you've gained through Operation Shipyard may not be entirely useless after the 14th after all. If you do not have enough to construct a boat, you may be able to use them to obtain a gambling addiction via loot boxes. You'll be able to trade away some of the more rare materials that you've gained, for example the wood or non-ferrous metals or cast iron, in exchange for a loot box that most likely just contains war bonds, but could get you a new vehicle, everything from the T-34E to the PV-2D, or a skin for some other vehicles that you probably don't have. Now, I highly doubt that it will be lucrative to go purchase all these materials off the marketplace where they're currently going for 10 cents each and hopes to get a large haul of the more expensive equipment. I personally never actually finished the first boat and therefore never got some of these other materials that they did not include in the original dev blog about how to construct the boat. Thank you very much there, Gaijin. Although I do have some Gajubal bucks and maybe thrown them away at virtual nothings could be kind of fun. Also, a quote from StoryTube replying to someone asking if there's going to be any BR changes updated anytime soon. He said, most likely before 1.93. And finally, there was a big old update in the changelog, which contains a lot of important information I should read to you. But I'm not going to read it to you because I hate reading. I will bring up, however, the most important factor in this entire thing. Volokolamsk is gone. Also, Baloney Sumar is no longer an Air RB battle. Does that mean it's going to show up in arcade? And that is all the news I actually care to cover. Before I end it there, however, I would like to thank the members of my YouTube channel. Pointless Gunsink, who needs to make a damn video, Perk You Up, Waffly Joker 6, and The Royal Rat. Thank you very much. If you care to join them and get some videos a bit early, as well as a few other things, be sure to hit that join button for $5 a month. Besides that, if you have any comments or concerns, you can hit me up down below or on my Discord. I make War Thunder weekly news videos every Sunday. I make random videos throughout the week. I like to stream on Saturdays, and I want to stream some XCOM sometime this week, so be sure to follow me on Twitch and hit that bell icon to be notified anytime I upload anything. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day. For bonus news, my last video I stated that War Thunder runs like hot garbage on the consoles, and quite a few people got mildly irritated at that statement. Well, I have to inform you that I got that information from none other than the store team dude himself, who, I quote, states, "Are you serious? They struggle to get 30 FPS at best, and most of the time it's below that." So if you were wondering if the person I got that information from happened to suffer from mental handicaps, now you have your answer.